And 1, 2, 3. What's up, everybody? Do you speak wrestling? Because we do here at Wrestling Fluency. My name is Brandy. I'm the Alabama Slammer. And Stella, tell her who we're talking to.
And we got the king of Pennsylvania strong style, that moneymaker that everybody has a price for, $1 Million Matt.
Woo! $1 Million Matt in the house. So, we're finally here. We're finally here. We're finally doing it.
Yes,
we're
indeed.
finally bringing the show to life.
Mm-hmm.
So excited. For the average listener, you're listening to this, and hopefully by now we've got all our ish together.
Yep, totally.
But trust me, it has been a long haul to get here.
Mm-hmm. How about it?
We've been working on this since, I don't know, July, August.
Yeah, it seems like around there, ballpark, pretty much.
Yeah, it was a whole thing of getting the equipment, and at first we were going to be a live stream, and that didn't pan out. So we're going this traditional route of uploading it to YouTube and meeting all our audience this way for a while until we can do the other ones.
Yep, exactly. Keeping it basic, keeping it simple.
Keeping it basic and simple. So like we said earlier, I am Brandy and he is Matt, and this is Wrestling Fluency. It's a podcast with two wrestling nerds who have come together to talk about wrestling, and we're going to be a little different than other shows. Like, you can tune in to so many people and hear their review, and we'll talk about some of the things we like, but really we just want to start conversations about different topics. And with that being said, I'm going to throw it to you, Matt, and I'm going to let you give the people your origin story. What made you a wrestling fan?
Well, here's how I got my superpowers of becoming a wrestling fan. So back when I was a little penny Matt, we'll say this is ballpark around 1987, 1988. I was about 3 or 4 years old around this time. And I believe one of my sisters was changing through the channel. Y'all remember Saturday morning cartoons, right? Back when they had that.
Heck yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, everybody remembers that. So it had to be either WCW Worldwide or WWF Challenger Superstars, one of them bad boys. And my sisters were flipping through the channels, and I frantically pointed as soon as I seen a hint of wrestling, because it seemed like fun action. And as soon as I protested, I mean, a 3 or 4 year old me, I was cute as a button to begin with. How are you going to say no to me? Being the youngest sibling on top of that, too. So after a protest, I finally got to see wrestling. And from then on in there, I grew up into my teenage years, the Attitude Era. Also, shout out to the local ECW, based out of Philadelphia. Yeah. And here we are, still a wrestling fan.
That's right. You've even gone to some shows locally lately, haven't you?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Funny thing is, I'm glad you brought up local shows, because this brings up a memory of a local show at one of the high schools, Pottstown High School. There was a local independent show. Actually, I had, believe it or not, Kerry Von Erich. It had the Honky Tonk Man, had the Bushwhackers.
Oh, wow.
But I left early because 8-year-old me could not process a local wrestler getting busted open, and I was terrified and begged my dad to leave the premises.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's intense when you're a little kid and you go to live events. And I'm an adult, and when I go to live events, especially if it's indie stuff where they're not like super professional, I'm like, oh, they're gonna get we're gonna see their leg get broke or something.
Right.
Okay. Well, that's awesome, Matt. I guess I will. Do you have any more you want to add to that, or?
I was going to add a little bit more when.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say. Now, 8-year-old me would have been squeamish of blood. 13-year-old me with ECW and watching a New Jack match, I was like, yes, bust him open.
It didn't take long until you got past your aversion to blood, huh?
Yeah, exactly. And then after that, seeing Stone Cold Steve Austin stun Vince McMahon, which added a lot of shock value. I miss those days. The Rock with his awesome catchphrases.
Yeah.
The evolution of The Undertaker, Triple H, and pretty much to John Cena. I miss his Thuganomics gimmick. The badass Brock Lesnar.
Yeah. So who would you say your favorites have been? Do you have a consistent favorite, or has it like evolved throughout your years as a fan?
Well, I was going to say it pretty much evolved. I pretty much evolved as a fan because although Hulk Hogan was the man, Macho Man Randy Savage was my guy.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Macho Man Randy Savage. Yep, absolutely. Macho Man Randy Savage and the $1 Million Man Ted DiBiase. And of course the legendary Andre the Giant.
So are you excited to see Ted DiBiase in NXT then?
Oh yeah, definitely. That darn Ted DiBiase.
That's awesome.
Yep, shout out to Cameron Grimes.
Oh yeah. Well, I don't remember as like perfectly as you do on this subject, but I do have a few like moments that stick out in my head.
Mm-hmm.
So when I was younger, I watched wrestling with my grandparents. We lived with them, and we would watch WCW and WWE. It was like you would go back and forth, right?
Right.
At one point, my dad was like, my mom loved professional wrestling when she was younger. It's just been this thing, and yeah, they used to go to the Coliseum down here and like get, see the local wrestlers. My dad and my uncle even did some little independent wrestling at one time.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I never knew that.
A guy a few blocks down from my dad's house, I remember they had a wrestling ring and they would put it up there and there would be like bootleg Undertakers and stuff like
Wow.
And we would walk down there and watch the wrestlers,
That's pretty dope.
Some of my first memories, I think this might be my first wrestling memory, is I know I loved the Luchadors with WCW because I was a big Power Ranger fan.
Yep,
and I loved martial arts. So when I saw the Luchadors, I liked gymnastics and like martial arts and stuff like that when I was a kid. So when I saw the Luchadors, I mean, that's like what they do. And they have masks like the Power Rangers, and it was so cool. So I remember really loving like Psychosis and I guess it's pronounced Psychosis. And then of course Rey Mysterio Jr. I loved them. Was a big fan of like the light heavyweight division and the more flippy athletic guys. I do remember being a big Roddy Piper fan. I had this dry erase board, like this the little ones you could get. And I would make signs for like each of my favorite wrestlers. So like whoever I liked that was coming out, I would make like a little sign like I was there and hold it up. And then when their match was over, I'd erase it and do someone else's. So I can remember doing like a hot rod one.
Nice. That's awesome.
What consistently made me an avid wrestling fan were the Hardys and Lita. Like Lita is one of those people that I think a lot of female wrestling fans are like, she was the catalyst for me.
Right.
She definitely was. Like, Lita looked like the girl I wanted to be. The Hardys looked like the boys I wanted to be with. Like, they were the dream team for me. And that was a great time in tag team wrestling, too. So, of course, I liked Edge and Christian.
Right.
And the Deadlies came in. So, I would say that Lita, I remember being a Sable fan before Lita, but it was still like a passive thing. It wasn't until Lita joined with the Hardys. So I watched her when she was with S.A. Rios, and I liked her. But it wasn't until she joined with the Hardys that I became like a real devout wrestling fan. And I think that was like 99, maybe?
Yeah, that sounds about right.
99, 2000, that area when she was with the Hardys and Trish had come in with TNA. That's like my era of wrestling that I really loved. And I to this day, I talk about how like wrestling raised me. And so Amy Dumas, being the kind of character she was as Lita, and even just being the kind of person that she is, was definitely, she's still one of the like top people that I put on the list of role models I've had in my life.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
of course, I've gone to like different shows and stuff. Like my sister and I used to go and see wrestling. My first
Nice.
road trip where I drove in my car was to go to Knoxville, Tennessee to watch a house show. And John Cena came out. This was 2006, so he was like 2006, 2007. It was like getting up there in his popularity. I have been to a lot of concerts in my life, a lot of metal shows. I've never been more deaf than when John Cena came out. It was crazy.
Oh yeah, it's standing ovation when you hear that. Dun, dun, dun.
Oh yeah. It's a good time when he comes out. Everybody's so hyped. We're like, woo! And so wrestling has just like been a part of my life. My mom used to go with me and my sister, and we would watch a local wrestling called New Generation Wrestling.
Nice.
Even lately, I've gone and seen a New South show, which, shout out to those people who know what New South Wrestling is. I've gone and seen that lately.
Yeah, I heard of New South. I never actively watched it.
Yeah, I went and watched one of those guys live, one of those shows live. And that was just like a thing that was between me and my mom and my sister. Like we really bonded and enjoyed wrestling, and we enjoyed going seeing it. And my cousin Kevin, we all went together. And me and my cousin Kevin, So I remember after my mom died, I would watch like old wrestling tapes because it just like reminded me of that time in my life where things felt normal. It's like just that, like that's kind of what wrestling, when I watch wrestling, it makes me feel connected to them again because it was something we shared and we loved so much. So wrestling means a lot to me. It really helped me as a person to become the person I am today.
Right.
So
yeah,
that's my wrestling origin story.
Yeah, that's how we both got our superpowers, folks. I was going to say, I also want to credit Ring of Honor, which was my introduction to CM Punk, Bryan Danielson, Kevin Owens, and here's a real quick story. I don't want to do too many quick stories. We want to get on our topic. But anyway, I remember when me and my friend Derek flew out to Los Angeles to a WrestleCon where I actually had the opportunity to meet Mike Tyson, but the line was like a mile long, and I was like, nah, I like Mike, but not that much. But I got to see Harry Smith against Finlay. I actually got a chance to talk to Kevin Owens. He wrestled a couple matches. Akira Tozawa actually wrestled twice, if I'm not mistaken. And also, when me and Derek were getting ready to check into our hotel, Harry Smith looked huge in person. I was like, wow, holy cow, I feel like a midget.
It is crazy when you meet them in person. Like I met Kurt Angle in person when a TNA show came around. He was with TNA.
Yeah.
And so I'm 5'8".
Yeah,
and
me
so
too.
I've always been like, okay, when I get in the ring, I'll go through like the middle. Because, the girls usually go like the bottom, and then like people around our height go to the middle, and then like, Taker and Kane, they go over the top.
Yeah.
Well, it was a lot harder to get into the ring than I remember. Than I thought it would be. Not that I remember, but than I thought it would be. Yeah. And so I was like, oh God, am I going to have to go under the rope? So after some difficulty getting in the ring, I turn around and there's just Kurt Angle. And I was like, oh yeah, he's like right there. Okay. I remember being like just so proud of getting in the damn ring. But just like in my head, I was like, well, Lita goes through the middle and we're about the same height.
Yeah.
Not as easy as I thought it would be.
Yeah, definitely not. I think I experienced that when me and my buddies were getting ready to get in the ring and take a picture with AJ Styles, who was like 5'10" and like 2 inches shorter than me. I was like, wow, I'm almost taller than AJ Styles. Or felt like I was just as tall as AJ Styles.
Yeah, that was crazy. I did get to meet Lita one time, but nice. I did not meet her in a wrestling context, though. I met her when her band first started touring.
Oh, and she came.
Yeah. Nice. She, like, one of her first tour dates with them was a little bar in Birmingham, Alabama called, like, the Blue Note. And it was the
Okay.
TNA show. I was at the TNA show, and people were passing out flyers, and they're like, "Hey, you like wrestling? You'll like this." And I was like, "Oh my God, it was Lita! It's Lita! I get to meet her!" You know,
Yeah.
because she had retired before I got to
Mm-hmm.
go to my first WWE match, and I was so upset. But that was so much better because, like, I remember sitting there and just seeing her come in, like, at the back. She had her little hood up and, like, was walking around. I was like, "Oh my God, there she is," you know.
Mm.
And then the show happened, and we got to, like, stand at her merch table and talk to her and just, like, talk about art and different stuff. At the time, I think she was dating their guitarist or bassist or whatever, so we talked to
Oh,
him.
gotcha.
It was such a cool moment where it wasn't like you're in a line, like, "Okay, I'll sign your picture," and, I mean, I took a picture with her and stuff, but "I'll sign your autograph and
Great.
go about your business," you know. You know what would be interesting, Matt, is maybe to tell people how it came to be that you and I came to be doing this podcast together. Like, how do we even know each other?
Yeah. Well, you mentioned your sister earlier, who was also a wrestling fan, and that's how me and your sister Tanya actually bonded. We would literally talk for hours about wrestling, like different events. Be like, "Oh, did you see that? That was awesome!" And
Yeah.
pretty much we met through her. I got to know Brandy. I realized Brandy was just as cool and also a wrestling fan.
Yeah.
And it's funny, a lot of people don't realize how much wrestling can bring a whole community together. Like, it's a really dope, beautiful thing.
It is. And my sister has since passed away.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really
Rest in
interesting
peace.
that it was interesting that was like the thing that kind of like got us together
Mm-hmm.
as knowing each other, being wrestling fans and friends. And, I had been thinking about doing this podcast for a while
Mm-hmm.
because I had been watching wrestling,
Right.
and wrestling is one of those things that, like, no matter if my life gets chaotic, I always come home to it. Like, I always come back. The
Exactly.
familiarity, the connection to, like, it just kind of grounds me. And throughout my life, I've done different things. Like, I had a wrestling podcast called Miss Wrestle Blog and a blog that I was getting relatively well known for. And then I was on the Pipe Bomb podcast. I was one of their members during one of their seasons for a while. I wish I could remember which podcast this was, but I was like a total Divas correspondent for one random wrestling podcast.
Right.
Like,
Right.
so I've done different things, and then I wrote for Diva Dirt for a very small amount of time. And at some point in the future, I'll talk about being a writer for Diva Dirt and why I eventually left that. That's
Right.
a whole box of worms to open up. But
Yeah. Yeah.
let's get into the topic, Matt. What topic are we on today?
Uh.
Since you are the man with the plan with these topics.
Yep. Shout out to Brian Kendrick. We ain't talking about him, but our topic is wrestling grievances.
Dun dun dun.
Dun-dun-dun.
I think that's something that, like, every wrestling fan has been airing lately.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we have a lot of things that we can say are good about wrestling, whether you're watching AEW, WWE, Impact Wrestling, New Japan, which I haven't watched in a while. I'm kind of out of the loop on that. NWA, I'm also out of the loop on that. I don't have Fight TV. But for the most part, we are mostly focusing on the sports entertainment titans, which are WWE and AEW.
Yeah, and honestly, I've watched so much more AEW lately than I
Same
have
here.
WWE.
Mm-hmm.
AEW not being as long really is helpful because Raw being 3 hours, like, Raw starts at 7, so I get off at 5, and then it
Right.
starts at 7 for me.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm
Starts
like,
at
oh my
8 here.
gosh, yeah. And then going 3 hours, I'm like, dude, I don't have the attention span for this, especially because the product,
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't do much to hold you. So I can't
Yeah.
tell you, other than watching, like, clips and stuff, the last time I sat down and fully watched a Raw.
Right. Yeah, I feel you on that. And on top of that too, Brandy, as much as I used to get mad at my 10 o'clock bedtime because that's when Raw really got good, like back in the day when Raw's War, when that whole introduction with Stone Cold Steve Austin then brawling and walking through the fire and all that. Like that's when the ish got real. But now the third hour is just like blah. And on top of that too, as an adult and as a, don't shame me for this, as a 37-year-old, I appreciate that 10 o'clock bedtime.
I try to stick to that, but like around, I'll be so tired. And then like if I let myself stay up till 10, I get the second wind, man. And then I'm like, it's go time. Let's go, boys.
Yeah, exactly.
So, I never watch it live anymore, ever.
Yeah.
And I would just watch like the 90-minute compilation, pretty much that Hulu did. But at the same time, they would cut stuff, and they would often cut the women's segments. And as a female wrestling fan and a fan of women's wrestling, it was really annoying. I'm like, why am I even watching this if the stuff I'm really interested in isn't even on there?
Right, exactly. Because I can go off rip and say, and this is crazy as it sounds, Doudrop is probably one of the reasons why I actually watch Raw. She's always been one of my favorites ever since I seen her in Europe and ICW. I can go on and on about this, but I'm really a fan of Doudrop.
Yeah. I'm like, what was wrong with her name? Piper is a nice name.
Yeah,
Piper
exactly.
Niven. Like, and I can understand that, like, well, there's already been one Piper. Well, then give her like another first name. Don't freaking name her Doudrop.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean,
I'm ready for that name to be shed.
Yeah, I kind of taken somewhat of a liking to it, but not much. I'm just kind of like, she's still Piper Niven to me.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I kind of get where it's going. She's taking something that's negative and she's running with it, which wrestlers have been doing for years, which I completely understand. But I'm with you on that one, Brandy, where the Doudrop name can kind of like go off into obscurity.
Yeah. I don't know. I was interested to watch Eva Marie's come back.
Right.
And like see. I've never been the biggest fan of her as a wrestler.
Right.
But I'm one of those people that like I am okay with characters being on TV that they're there to move the storyline along and to be a catalyst in the storyline. I'm totally fine with that. Like, what's the point? Because, you know, at one point, Trish Stratus couldn't wrestle to save her damn life.
Right,
you know,
exactly.
Obviously she got better as time went on. But, like, in the beginning, Trish Stratus couldn't wrestle to save her damn life. But she was awesome at moving the storyline along.
Yep, exactly.
And I was interested to see if that's what would work with Eva. But, like, pretty much Eva's thing just seems rudderless.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it has, first off, it has no end to it, and then second off, it's just like it leaves fans scratching their head like, what's the point in this? Like, she's getting squashed every week. Is she going to have another heavy come out and beat up Doudrop? Like, where's this going?
Now, there was a time when she was in NXT and she had a thing going on with Nia Jax. And that actually really worked well, those two together, because they were legit friends anyway. Yeah, not saying that her and Piper aren't friends, but like she had been down there training with Nia and they were close. And so I really enjoyed that pairing. And even when she got up to SmackDown, like when the brand split back in the day, when she got up to SmackDown and she was doing that thing where she'd get in the ring and oops, her top broke or something like that. That was an interesting story that she was telling. But the thing with Eva is like you can only tell so many before you become a sideshow. And it's like, okay, you're out there, something fucky's gonna happen, like whatever.
Yeah. And pretty much that'll pretty much downgrade to a piss break. Be like, okay, she's on, all right, time to go take a piss.
For sure. That's one of my biggest grievances when it comes to WWE is that they have a lot of storylines, especially in the women's storylines, that like there's no payoff for the stuff. Like when Lana was going through the table over and over every week, she'd go through the table. I was like, y'all just wait. Like, if there's a payoff, there's got to be a payoff for all this, right? It's gonna be
Yeah.
good. She'll get her comeuppance.
Yeah, exactly.
And she didn't really. Like, there were, the whole my whole moment and stuff, which was hilarious. My
Yeah,
whole,
exactly. It went
you know,
viral.
yeah.
Oh.
I thought the payoff was really gonna be Lana and Naomi getting the titles off of those two.
All right.
I think everyone was geared up for that. Everyone was excited for that. And when it ultimately didn't happen, it was just like, okay, so Lana got physically abused for like 9
Mm-hmm.
weeks or whatever. And then her payoff, her retribution is like one or two little instances where she lands a couple of things on Nia.
Yeah.
Really? Yeah, okay. Beating her one time. That makes up for the 9 times the woman put her through the table.
Yep.
Okay.
9 times.
I think it was 9. I don't remember.
Yep. 9
It was
times.
it was a lot. But yeah, a lot. Their storylines are nonsensical at times.
Yeah, absolutely. And another good example, another grievance I have, which I'm going to drop my 2 cents on,
2 cents.
and that would be the breaking up of the Hurt Business,
Ugh.
which to me was the best thing going for Raw, in my opinion. So there could have been so many things that could have stemmed off of it. You could have had quite a few tag team feuds with Cedric and Benjamin pretty much carrying the load and feuding with different teams. I mean, there weren't too many teams to begin with because Vince McMahon doesn't give an ish about tag team wrestling, but you could have done something with that. You could have done a lot with Lashley when he was U.S. champion at the time. So many feuds could have stemmed off of that. And I heard a theory and a rumor, and I believe it was a YouTube channel that I follow. Shout out to Polana Productions, who mentioned Keith Lee joining the Hurt Business. So even after Lashley would have lost the U.S. title, won the world title, you could have brought in Keith Lee. He would have won the U.S. title, had a monster run, and basically just have a believable storyline with solid continuity with the Hurt Business.
Yeah, Keith Lee getting COVID and having long COVID really kind of hurt him in
Yeah,
that
definitely.
aspect. But also now that he's back, they're also calling him Bearcat.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's a nod to I forget, there was a wrestler that went by the name of Bearcat back in the day. I forget their name exactly, but
I just don't get the parallel. Like,
yeah.
is this someone that in the past he's been like, yeah, you really inspired me?
Yeah, that's why I'm wondering where this is going. If they're trying to do like a nod or if they're just trying to bring back like gimmick style. I mean, let me ask you this, Brandy. Have you watched NXT 2.0?
I have not watched a lot of it. I
Yeah.
have heard about it.
Yeah, I mean,
The Johnny Gargano show.
yeah, there's some good stuff on there, but there's a lot of stuff that I personally, because I'm all for the black and gold back in 2018, 2019, where NXT was the stuff and that was the show to watch. But I'm still a little more impartial to that than Vince McMahon and Bruce Pritchard's vision of NXT. I mean, I get what they're doing. They're trying to have like more believable superstars and more larger than life superstars, but I'm still kind of not warmed up to it yet.
Yeah.
It's going to take me some time if we're being real here. I'm gonna stack it up on y'all by saying that.
I'm not going to warm up to it because, okay, and I know I'm different than most wrestling fans, but
All
the
right.
smaller people are why I started watching wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
The women, the lightweight divisions, the cruiserweights, those are who I'm interested in. Like, I like Stone Cold and The Rock just as much as anyone.
Yep. Or Triple H.
Oh, yeah. I liked watching their segments and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as their matches go, I wasn't really enthralled with their matches. Their matches were just what was happening to get to the next part of the story for me. Because
Right.
I was like, I was there for the more technical wrestling, the more athletic.
Mm-hmm.
And I know, like, going back now, I would probably view it very differently. But that's just the kind of wrestling fan I was. And what originally brought me to enjoying wrestling, which was very different than what they were doing. So I'm not really, like, someone gets in the ring and they do a choke slam. I'm like, wow, a choke slam. Someone gets in the ring and can do like a Dragorana. I'm like, wow, that's insane.
Mm-hmm.
Although I am not a spot person, like a spot monkey kind of person, where that's another one of my grievances, actually.
Oh yeah.
There's a lot of that now that makes absolutely no sense in a match. Nothing. My thing that I will always preach
Mm-hmm.
is with wrestling. As wrestling fans now who are cognizant that it's scripted, right? We know that they're not.
Obviously.
Yeah, we know that. So
Mm-hmm.
the challenge now, in the past, the challenge was to hold up kayfabe. The challenge now is to suspend disbelief for the viewer. And that means you have to make the psychology of your match has to be very interesting. What you're doing has to be so interesting enough that we're paying attention and we forget. We want suspended belief, suspended disbelief. And you get that. You get that in movies when you're watching,
Mm-hmm.
when you're watching like a Superman movie, you're
Yeah,
like, oh my
exactly.
God, or and there's a market for that, and there's people who enjoy that. Like, I view it as watching, a movie or stunt coordinators do stuff.
Yeah. And
But there,
yeah. Oh, go
um,
ahead. Sorry.
when you have a spot where you can see someone helping you stand up to do the move, or standing there a long time waiting to catch you, it it
Mm-hmm.
it completely takes you out of the moment. And I'm like, yeah, that was super impressive. You did like 35 flips in midair. Wow, you are super athletic.
Yeah.
This is not wrestling. And you're burning me out. You're burning me out on it.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is with that is there's too many flippy spots and it almost feels like, and I can agree with Jim Cornette on this, it almost feels like you're watching gymnastics. And it's cool and all when you can do that. I mean, hell, for the record, I'm a freaking skinny dude who's 5'8" who should move like a cruiserweight, but if I do a moonsault, it'd be crooked as anything. But more than likely, if you put me in training in wrestling school, I'd probably have that perfected. But anyway, that's another rant. But for the most part, I want it to make sense. And piggybacking off of your point too, Brandy, it has to make sense and it has to tell the story and it has to get the crowd invested.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
I was gonna say, I don't know if you've seen the match with Bryan Danielson and Kenny Omega, but right before they even grappled, the crowd was invested. They were going nuts, like they wanted to see this match. And
I have not got to watch that yet. I'm so excited to. I know the ending of it and stuff, so
I was gonna
it's not
say,
going to
I'm just gonna
spoil
leave it at that.
me. But oh no, you can talk about it. I know the ending and everything like that.
Right.
Um, earlier when you were giving your introduction, I asked you like about your favorite wrestlers and stuff. I just want to throw it out there that Bryan Danielson, out of all the modern wrestlers, is my current and longest running probably favorite wrestler. I love his work and I love him as a person. I read his book. He's just so
Yep, same here.
lovable. Love him on Total Divas. Love him and Brie together as a couple. They're sweet family. So if if Bryan Danielson is
Yep, I'm used to
on
it
it,
too.
I'm probably gonna watch it.
Yep.
And I remember like a long time ago, man. This is gonna be like this was before he was in WWE, his last like big run, I guess. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
It was 10 to 12 years ago. But I
Okay.
remember my friend inviting me over and being like, yeah, let's watch these Kenta matches. And then seeing Brian in those and being like, who is that? And then, oh, that's Brian Danielson. He's the American Dragon. Da, da, da. And I was like, that guy's awesome. He looks like William Regal.
Yeah, that was my first impression of him. He's actually one of the guys that got me into watching a lot of ROH, and I went to a lot of ROH shows. There was one particular one in Philadelphia where Nigel had a surprise opponent, and he mentioned at one point in the show it's someone from Nigel's past, and it ended up being Brian Danielson.
Wow.
And they tore the freaking house down. Like, this looked all out brawl. Like, these two beat the ish out of each other, but they put on a good match.
Yeah.
And
his love and passion for wrestling transcends when he's doing things. I mean, you can feel it through the screen. I'm sure in person it was even greater.
Yeah. And I was gonna say, I'm kind of fanboying about this, but his last official ROH appearance in the Hammerstein Ballroom, me and my buddies went to see his last match against Nigel, and I actually got to meet him and get his autograph and talk to him for a little bit.
Wow.
He was so dope.
Yeah, he just
like if you think this guy is dope in his whole persona, just like, he's really dope in person.
I definitely feel like that Daniel O'Brien's probably one of the people in my overall soul family, as just as the kind of person he is. We have a lot of similar views on life and stuff. But that's exciting. You know, he talks about that match in his book and everything. So you were there for a piece of history.
Yeah, yes, I was.
Piece of wrestling history. Oh, man. Yeah, so we're talking about grievances. We've gotten off the beaten path a bit here. So,
yeah, totally.
What's another grievance that you have with the modern wrestling?
I was gonna say, so we talked about
the nonsensical
booking, the lack of continuity or actual storylines that make sense. Another one I would say is the lack of babyface star power.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, if you look at baby faces, I mean, for a little while when Drew McIntyre first became the champion, like, he was this believable, like, badass from freaking Scotland that could literally Scotland. Yeah, I was gonna say, I cannot do the accent. I try and sound like a complete goof, but anyway. He just seemed like a freaking badass. Like, he seemed like the cool guy you'd want to hang out with. Like, when I think of a babyface like that, like somebody who I'd hang out with, where if a bar fight brawl would break out, I'd want that dude on my side. Like, that's my whole look on it. That might be a weird, different approach, but that's the way I kind of look at it.
I like Drew McIntyre. A lot of my family is Scot-Irish, so it's like for the motherland, do it. You know?
Sweet.
And then Becky, for the motherland. Sheamus, for the motherland.
Yeah.
And then on the other side of my family, there's like some more Eastern Europeans, so I'm like, Miro, for the motherland. But
I want to go to the UK, by the way.
Oh yeah, I would love to. Yeah. Oh, I almost forgot what I was gonna say.
Yeah, I was gonna say back to the point we were talking about.
Back to
baby faces. Yeah, I was gonna say we're talking about baby faces and the lack of star power with baby faces.
Yeah, well, this is a little rant from me too. It's because like they try to make the cheesiest freaking baby faces. And like that's not what makes. How many people do you know in real life that's like, gee golly willikers, guys, it's sure nice to be here today. How many of you can really say that person is your favorite person to talk to? No, you like the person that can like rib and talk shit and joke with you.
Yeah, exactly. And not only that, it's almost like a much more charismatic version of James Bond. Like, you know why you like James Bond. You know why you like Bruce Wayne and Batman. You know why you like Kal-El and Superman. You know why you like Peter Parker and Spider-Man, if that's your bag. You know why you like T'Challa and Black Panther. Me personally, I know why I like T'Challa and Black Panther. Wakanda forever.
Yeah. It's just the baby faces, they have not figured out how to, and this is what happens, is that baby faces get created because they're heels that get turned babyface by the crowd.
Right.
And people are like, man, you just can't keep a heel over. Yeah, you could. I mean, all they have to do is do some dickish, heelish behavior.
Yeah,
The
exactly.
problem is that, like, the heels get turned babyface because the heels wind up just being people who, like, come across as average people, but, like, badass average people. It's like the Stone Cold syndrome kind of deal. You know, like, everyone loves Stone Cold because he was, like, he felt like an extension of you.
Yep, exactly.
You know, so yeah, they go this cheesy route, and God help the people who have to write this show. Oh my God.
Yeah, I feel
That might be my
terrible for 'em.
biggest grievance as someone who's been a writer her whole life. Oh my God, the writing is so bad, and the acting is so bad.
Yeah, I mean, I think me and you were talking about this the other day. They could do something like they could bring in an acting coach and actually show them how to be a character, how to be a babyface, or how to be a heel. Like, literally, I'd like to see a babyface that is lovable and awesome that everybody can get behind instead of trying to preach this whole underdog thing, because they try to do that's another part of my grievances too, just like trying to overdo the underdog thing. Like, it's already been done with Daniel Bryan, we get it. They tried to do it with Sami Zayn, we get it. They tried to do it with Johnny Gargano, we get it. When are you going to stop doing the underdog thing and actually have a legit hero we can root for? And on top of that, I'm glad you mentioned Stone Cold. Here's another good example of that. The Rock, when he was doing the whole big hair and Samoan heritage thing, like it was something you could get behind, but the crowd thought it was corny. So as soon as The Rock turned heel, joined the nation, he said, okay, you want me to die? You don't like me? Guess what? I don't like you either. Y'all are a piece of trash. And I'm The Rock, and you're not.
Yeah. Well, for people to make it that far, they have something about them. They have a certain something about them. And you succeed when you let those people amplify that part of them.
Right.
But it doesn't look like we're going to, I mean, I feel like that's a common complaint that's been made a million times, and they still do nothing about it. And yes, the acting coach, oh my God, like Natalia, I respect her as a wrestler. I think she's an amazing wrestler.
Oh, of course.
She is the worst actress in that company. She is so bad. And I'm like, are y'all just afraid to tell her because she's a heart or what? Like, her acting is terrible. And it's something that can be fixed. You can teach people to act better.
Yep,
She's a
exactly.
phenomenal wrestler. She's a prestigious wrestler. Just get her in some good acting classes.
Yeah, and
that's what holds her back, and it's not fair that they haven't invested in that for her, because Natty should be so much higher in the card than she is.
Right.
And that's the one thing that holds her back. And they do nothing about it.
Yep, exactly. And there's so many wrestlers out there. Like, I'll give a good example. Ricochet, hell of a freaking athlete. Like, literally, he has a moveset where, I'll tell you this, as a smaller guy being 5'8" and skinny as anything, if I were to maybe have a moveset, it would probably be similar to Ricochet's. But like I said before, I can't do any of the flippy stuff. I'm not that flexible. But if I were to have a dream moveset, like I could wake up tomorrow with this moveset, it would definitely be Ricochet's. But so good athletically, so good in the ring. I've seen Gatorade bottles have much more charisma than Ricochet, and that's not a dig at him. It's just a simple fact that he doesn't really get over or connect with the audience.
No, but even then, like, he was very successful on the independents.
Right.
So there's, obviously there's something there. And
Yeah.
WWE is supposed to be the best in the world. So why can they not bring it out of him?
Yeah, exactly. And another look at it, this is going back to the whole Hurt Business rant. Now Cedric Alexander's not, he's chasing the 24/7 championship. Same with Shelton Benjamin. Like, at least when they were with the Hurt Business, they had something going on. And on top of that, more than likely had MVP on the side coaching them, showing them how to be charismatic and showing them how to connect with the audience on the mic, especially as heels.
Yeah. Well, we're getting a little long here. So let's move into the next part. I think we've gone over the pros and cons pretty well. What we should maybe look into the balanced solution for these grievances we have, or what our not perceived. That's not our prescribed solution.
Yeah. We'll go with that. Well, for one thing, it's like we mentioned earlier. Get someone who is maybe an acting coach. Pretty much teach these superstars how to be charismatic, how to be good guys, and get completely over with the baby base. And not only that, more importantly, have the crowd relate to you. Because if the crowd does not relate to you, you are not getting over. And another thing with that, same thing with the heels too. Make them so hateful, like literally burn your house down with your family in it. Like, I want to see this dude get his crap handed to him. Like, I'd like to see more of that, especially with character development, because it goes back to when you're watching a TV show, you're watching a movie, you want to know what drives the good guy to vanquish the bad guy. So that would be one of my balance solutions.
Yeah, motivation.
Yep, exactly. And that's another thing. Get better with continuity. Don't just throw in a whole bunch of rematches. I mean, the endless and overwhelming idea of rematches just makes me want to, like, literally cringe. I'm like, another rematch. How many times do we have to see Randy Orton versus Edge?
Oh my God, yes. And I love Edge.
Yep, I do too.
And Randy Orton's a great worker, but like,
absolutely,
they do that to Randy Orton a lot, where they put him in a program with someone and they just leave him in programs. Remember when it was Randy Orton and Cena constantly?
Yeah, exactly. And I was just like, okay, this is tiring. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Brandy, that's when Daniel Bryan was getting over.
Yeah.
Especially when they came to Seattle and they were chanting, Daniel Bryan.
For sure. It was during that time period.
Yep.
My prescription is pretty much the same as what you're recommending. Get actual acting coaches to teach these people how to deliver the lines, especially if you're going to write it for them. Get some writers and, like, plot out your show. It feels like they do their show, like, week to week. It's really...
Right.
It doesn't make any sense.
Yep.
And I forgot to mention this during my grievance, but make Alexa Bliss a normal person again. It was bullshit when she stole the Fiend's stuff before, and now that he's not in the company, it makes her even less likable.
Yeah.
Because you're just like, you didn't come up with that, you bit this other guy's gimmick, and now he's gone.
Yeah, you're riding a coattail.
Yeah. Throw that stupid little doll away. Alexa Bliss is great. She deserves it. And she's killing that role, but that role needs to go away.
Yeah, exactly.
Stop bringing up women who aren't ready. Like Nia Jax, love her to pieces, was not ready to be on the main roster. Needed more time.
Yep. I was going to say Mandy Rose, but
They sent her back to NXT.
yeah, but I'll tell you what, she's got something special. I'm not going to spoil it for you unless you've seen it, but I like what they're doing with her down in NXT 2.0. Keep doing your thing.
Yeah. It's just, and I don't think the show needs to. I don't know how the show can be as long as it is, and it's just full of nothing.
Right.
So my thing is, like, we don't need all these extra hours. We need consistent, good product.
Yeah.
We need compelling storylines. Can we get back to the fact that this is a show, and it's like they've forgotten. So wrestling shows, a wrestling show should be about chasing the titles because you're a fighter. You're coming in to fight.
Yeah.
What is the point of being there if you're not chasing a championship? And if you're not chasing a championship, which everybody can't, but everybody, that should be their ultimate goal. The stuff that's happening outside of chasing the championship needs to be personal. There needs to be clear definitions of why you're going after something. Everything should be about, all right, let's take it to the ring and settling it and proving things in the ring. It's a wrestling show. It's being run like a really bad soap opera right now. And we got to get back to, it's about this title. It's about proving that I'm the best person. It's about the fact that this person thinks she's better than me, and I'm about to show her that she's not. It's all got to be left on the mat. I want storylines where it's left on the mat, where it lives and dies in the ring.
Right, exactly. And on top of that, we need to have better blood feuds. I mean, I can't tell you when was the last time. I mean, can you tell me when was the last time you seen like a half decent blood feud?
Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn.
Right, that's true. They
were
up on
their initial
scale.
feud. Their initial feud on the main roster. That was a good blood feud.
Yeah. Yep, and that was another thing with like Kevin Owens. Like you can literally put him in an awesome blood feud, but he's pretty much dealing with the cards he's dealt with and just working with the tools that he got.
Kevin Owens, when he came into WWE, when he was down in NXT, he was a perfect example of what I mean about leaving it in the ring. He's a prize, he came in, he was the prize fighter. He's fighting to win titles, to make money for his family. That was compelling, and it gave a reason and like a humanness to the ruthlessness that you saw in him sometime. And then like him and Sammy having been friends in the past and like that. And like the fact that they have Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn on their roster, and they still, I mean, those are two phenomenal guys, awesome wrestlers. They've really wore them out working them together in terrible storylines. But like, that's a good story to tell. They just tried to tell it too much. But they've got amazing people. Like you brought up Ricochet, amazing. AJ Styles, still a fantastic wrestler. Roman Reigns, and I want to say this, Roman Reigns and Paul Heyman right now, the reason to watch sometimes. This is the best work of Roman Reigns' career. It is amazing.
It definitely is.
He is 100% the man. He 100% deserves it. I am so tired of seeing like these fucking fans that do not show respect to the tribal chief
from the IWC.
Yeah.
Acknowledge him, damn it.
Acknowledge him. Well, here's the thing. One, I am a woman.
Right.
So obviously I can look at Roman Reigns and be like, damn, that's a fine man. But I am a wrestling fan
He's
as
a good
well.
looking dude.
I'm a wrestling fan as well. So when he was just a pretty looking guy who couldn't work for shit, I was like, man, forget that guy. But he went away, he did the work, he learned how to talk. And he got better, and like he was doing so well. This is during the time I think he was working with Bray a lot before Bray was the Fiend.
Yeah.
Like maybe it was 2016. I don't remember exactly.
Yeah, right around there.
But he had been gone for an injury, and when he was gone, he started working with the acting coach. Surprise, surprise, the acting coach helped.
Yep, there you go.
When he came back, he was still babyface, but he was working with Braun a lot during this time, I remember. He was having phenomenal matches. And I remember just being like, man, Roman has gotten so much better. And people flaming me to the gods. They were like, Roman Reigns sucks and the company's just pushing him and da-da-da. I'm like, the company is a company and the company needs a face. And I don't know if you've seen Roman Reigns' face, but it is nice, okay? It is nice. He's handsome to the women. He's badass looking to guys. Yeah, I can see why they would want to push him to the moon and back. But the thing is they dumped this on him, and he has risen to the occasion, and he has produced, especially lately, just some of the greatest stuff. So, yeah, he deserves all the credit. He deserves the acknowledgement. He does.
Yep, exactly. And it's pretty much what I'm saying, and I know you disagreed with me on this. That's the same thing I could say with Dewdrop. She's taking something that a lot of people are cringing at, and she's making it work for her.
I won't disagree with you on it. I haven't watched it enough. Like, I'm all about the whole taking chicken shit and making chicken salad.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
I love to see people that are like, you know what, you gave me nothing. Like Corbin, that crap they gave Corbin, and he killed it.
Yeah.
Continues to kill it. I'm like, I did not like him at all.
I didn't either.
All this time,
I was not a fan.
Like, I liked him as a person, okay. I thought he was interesting as a person, but as a wrestler, I just was not interested. Until he started doing this Down on His Luck and the Happy Corbin stuff. I was like, this is good shit. This is good. He's doing great.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't have to necessarily like your character and like be like Paul Heyman's character, the squiggly, slimy, blah.
Yeah, man.
If you knew someone like that in real life, you'd be like, man, fuck that guy. He's
I'd want to punch him right in the face.
But as a character on the TV show, you're like, oh man, I love that character. He's such a jerk, awesome. You know.
And he makes it work.
He does. He's phenomenal.
Yep.
He's doing great.
Yep. And I was going to say another one. I'm surprised neither one of us mentioned him, but Seth Rollins.
Oh, I have mixed feelings on Seth Rollins.
Yeah, I mean, the whole drip thing was kind of done. He kind of stole from Johnny, in my personal opinion, but he's another one. He's making it work to his advantage, and he can. I'll say this to Seth: he can work his ass off and put together a match and be dope as hell. I mean, I seen him in Ring of Honor when he was Tyler Black, and I was like, dude, this guy's a freaking superstar.
For sure. I like Seth Rollins' character.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm not to the point where I'd like want to be friends with him, but I think that he makes good choices with how he does his characters. And I like that he's not afraid to go out there and do some really weird, more psychological kind of characters. I think that's interesting. Mm-hmm. My problem is with Seth Rollins being a total mark, being a mark for WWE.
Yeah.
Like, he makes these comments about the WWE being the big leagues and all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to slap him. And it's not like I want to slap Seth Rollins. Like Colby Lopez, I want to be like, why don't you sit down?
Yeah.
Why don't you sit the hell down?
Yep. It's almost like, remember when you were Tyler Black, Mother Trucker? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's like, I don't want you to sit here and pretend, and you cannot sit here and pretend that the WWE, like, Seth Rollins has pretty much had the golden ticket in the WWE.
Oh, of course.
He's always been protected. Mm-hmm. He's always been in the limelight.
Mm-hmm.
He was one of the first NXT champions.
Yep.
Comes up on the main roster working with big time people. Not that he wasn't talented enough to do it. He 100% was. But he doesn't know, like, the same struggle that a lot of the people who started from the bottom and had to work up in that company did. So people who leave WWE and have grievances are allowed to have those and should not have to worry about Seth Rollins getting on Twitter. I want to take his Twitter from him so bad.
Yep.
I'm like, you need to just lay off the tweeter, okay?
Just
not every thought that goes around in that head of yours needs to come out in a tweet.
Yep, exactly.
And so I don't even remember what it was recently, but he made a dig at like Adam Cole or something, I think is what people were perceiving it as.
Right.
And I'm like, shut up. You came to the main roster with a big push behind you. They wanted to bring Adam Cole, one of the best wrestlers in the world right now, up to the main roster to be a manager.
My favorite wrestler alive too.
Mm,
one of my favorite wrestlers alive.
Yeah. So that's what bothers me with WWE.
Mm-hmm.
AEW bothers me because they have this like golden opportunity right now, and it's like half their show is really good, with professional looking shit, and then the other half of it is the Dark Order.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, pretty much. And I was gonna say my grievances with AEW, and to no fault of theirs, it just is what it is. The overwhelming abundance of former WWE wrestlers. I mean, we got another one of my favorite wrestlers in existence, Malachi Black. We got Andrade. We got Bryan Danielson. We got CM Punk. And the problem I have is a lot of fans wanting these guys to now get pushed because they didn't get their fair shot in WWE. And it's just like, if they at least get compelling storylines and solid feuds, then maybe you can build them to a title push. But not because they didn't get their fair shot in WWE that automatically they should be pushed and be champion tomorrow. I mean, that would be like either one of us going into a new company and expecting to be the CEO in like 2 days. I mean, let's be real, people.
Well, I think so far they don't have anything like that going on. Like Brian and Kenny has been more like a grudge match. I really want them to lean on, and I used this in a comment on something else, I really want them to lean into the fact that this is kind of Brian's dream match tour, where he's like getting to go and fight all the people he's just wanted to. Like, he's done it. He's been to the top of the mountain, and now he's just wanting to have amazing matches with people. And I wouldn't be opposed to him or Punk having the AEW title like down the line. I do want Adam Page to come back and have his fair shot with it.
Yep.
And
same here.
And I want them to bring Adam Page back and have him have a good program with Kenny to where he finally dethrones him. And it's not some cowboy bullshit, It's like...
Yeah, exactly.
Because they've punked him so much during this last year. It's like, no, come back. Let him... He's been gone a while. People miss him. When he comes back, he's going to get a big pop. He needs to come back strong and legit and be the person who takes the title off of Kenny.
And I was going to say, I just thought of something, and I might tell you this off camera because I don't want to reveal it, but this could be an idea for AEW on how to possibly book Adam Page.
Ooh.
So
okay, well, we won't go over
it here. I'm not going to give y'all the juicy stuff. Y'all ain't ready for that yet. We just giving y'all a taste.
Did you hear that, Tony Khan? You can't steal our ideas without hiring us first.
Yeah, exactly. Wrestling Fluency.
Wrestling
Come holla at us.
Yeah. My other complaint with AEW is their women's division. Now, their women's division is getting much better.
Mm-hmm.
But, man, it's had a lot of green women on there.
Yeah, just, ugh.
Yeah. And, like, I give women's wrestling a lot of grace because they have been at a disadvantage until recent years, where they have not had the investment that men's wrestling has had.
Right.
But there's just some things that I'm like, this is a training match. This is a match you would see if you went to this has no business being on like primetime television. When they put people out there that botch a lot, and it's like, look, every botch
like
takes
a low
people,
indie match.
Yeah, every botch takes people out of the moment. Remember, I said the goal is to suspend belief. Like suspend disbelief. People are like, okay, I'm so into it, I forget that it's not real. Every time someone does one of those things where they botch a move, it takes you out of it, and you're like, oh yeah, this is fake. Every time that they do one of those things where it takes forever to set up a big flippy move, it takes people out of the moment.
Mm-hmm.
And we go, oh yeah, it's not real. And it devalues the work, and it devalues the show. So I would like to see them Get to the point where, look, you don't have to do every move you've ever learned in your life. Do ones
Right.
that look good. Do ones you can do fast that you don't have a lot of downtime. Like that whole when people get hit and then they roll out of the ring and they just take a nap on the floor for 5 minutes until it's time for their spot again.
Yep,
It's not cutting
exactly.
it. It's not cutting it. You know, like get back to wrestling being an art and a story that's being told.
Yep, and on top of that, having the crowd invested. I mean, look at Japan and all that. When you see a Japanese match, they take their time to pretty much build up the crowd because beginning of the match, the crowd's freaking silent.
Yeah.
But when they see something great, they see something awesome, they see something that'll make them pop. And I believe Dr. Tom Pritchard mentioned this. Like the crowd doesn't really, excuse me, I'm sorry. The wrestler doesn't have to try as hard to get the crowd to pop because the crowd will pop when they see something awesome. But to try to pander and try to get them going with this whole clapping and all that good stuff,
Yeah.
it's not necessary.
It's like, look, you don't have to do all that. We want to do that. We are waiting for that minute. We're waiting. Just build it. Just tell the story. We're here. We're quiet now because we're watching your story. We're listening. It's like when you're coming up to your friend and you're like, girl, let me tell you what happened this weekend. And you're like, so I got up and I was like brushing my hair and this, and that's like your friend's listening and they're getting intent. They're focusing on it.
Right. Exactly.
And then they hit you with the big stuff and you're like, oh my God.
Yep.
It's the same kind of thing in wrestling.
Yep.
And I think with AEW, with people like Punk being back in there, with people like Bryan Danielson especially, Malachi Black, although he's been kind of hit or miss lately with some of the weird stuff he's been doing with Cody. But I just think that, like, hopefully they've got enough people in there that are more veteran status that they'll be able to start steering matches. Like, I know everybody was super into the cage match at the last AEW pay-per-view with the Young Bucks and
I actually enjoyed that match.
I enjoyed
personally
some of it, but there was a lot of it that I was just like, this is hokey as hell. This is too much.
Yeah.
The Young Bucks are very athletic, but they have the too much gene where they're just doing the most.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, some of the spotty stuff they really don't have to do, in my personal opinion, but they could put on great matches. They just don't have to, as I mentioned earlier, the point I mentioned earlier, they don't have to really try that hard.
Exactly. It's like, look, we've well established that you guys are phenomenal athletes. Now tell us a story.
Yep, exactly. I mean, and on top of that, you're one of the best tag teams in the world.
For me, that's debatable.
I was gonna say arguably or unarguably, however you want to look at it. Show perspective.
Yeah, that's where we'll disagree on that. I'm not a big fan of the Young Bucks.
Agree to disagree.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of the Young Bucks' work as it stands now. I acknowledge their work and I acknowledge that they're very talented and that they're very athletic. I just, as far as their matches go, none of the ones that I've seen, I've been able to suspend that disbelief. You know.
Fair enough.
And sometimes that works, like Orange Cassidy, when he does those little kicks and stuff.
Yeah.
I love that. I think that kind of stuff is fun as a sideshow, but not like all the time.
Right.
You know, you got to save that stuff.
Yep, exactly. I mean, we get it. It's part of his gimmick, just the whole lazy wrestler thing. But then after a while, it's just like, it's the same thing. It's almost like, prime example, if you're, let's say your favorite food's pizza and you're eating pizza every day. How much more are you going to eat pizza?
Seriously. Actually, the pizza would be Jericho.
Yep.
Look, Chris Jericho has consistently been one of my favorite wrestlers for the majority of my life.
Yep, mine too.
But I am so glad the stuff with him and MJF is over.
Yeah.
I could not. I'm like, no more, please. That was one of those things that it was like, it's hard to take MJF too seriously because he always gets beat. So each
should have
time
been
he
put that feud to bed.
Yeah. I feel like he should have gone over on Jericho. Just my personal opinion. I know a lot of people have differing opinions on that. I feel like he should have went over. I do like the stuff that he's doing now with Pillman Jr. I think that has potential to be really good.
Yep,
like,
I think
Pillman
so too.
Seems like a really natural babyface. You want to like him.
Yep, exactly.
Got this great built-in storyline anyway, and then he himself is pretty good. So I'll be interested with that. I'll be interested where MJF goes from here now that he's out from under just that storyline that went forever with Jericho.
Yeah. Yeah, just wanting for that to end. And I was going to say a little on the back, a little bit on the, I can't talk now. But anyway, what I was thinking was a little bit on the upside. I would also like to see a Wardlow turn.
Yeah, they're feeding that out there, and like, so people are just ready. They're waiting. They're like, come on, do it.
Yeah.
Do it.
I mean, we see it coming. I mean, I was trying to get my thoughts together and lost my train of thought at the time, but that's where I was looking to go with this. I was like, we know Wardlow's getting ready to turn. Eventually, he's going to get tired of MJF, so pretty much do sort of like the whole Batista turning on Evolution type of deal, and just make him a total freaking monster that we can get behind. And I will go as far as to say I see him as future AEW champion.
I think a lot of people feel that way about him.
Yeah, Wardlow's great.
I'm in agreement with you that I'm not too eager to see like a bunch of the former WWE guys get a title that's like a big title. I'm like, one of the lower ones. I am very much of the persuasion that like, okay, it's a wrestling show, so it needs to be a show about fighting for the top spot, and you've got name recognition walking in.
Yeah.
But at some point, you do have to like work through the rankings.
Yeah, and another thought I had too, Brandy, just like we want to see more of the AEW guys really get their fair shot at it. I mean, how insane will the crowd go? And this is a bit of a stretch and a bit of a reach. If someone like Jungle Boy actually won the title, I mean, his theme song's over, the crowd's chanting, oh. Like, that crowd, I'm not going to lie, if I was watching at home or if I was in the arena, I would absolutely go ape shit.
Yeah, people love Jungle Boy. He's a very natural baby face.
Yep.
Like, why not? I feel like at some point when Darby wins it, like, people will love that. A lot of people talk about Darby being small. I like him overall, though.
Yep, I do too. And he pretty much is like a representative of a small guy like me. Yeah. Like, honestly, realistically, I know I said if I were to dream up a moveset of mine, it would be Ricochet's, but in reality, I think I'd probably do something a little more along the lines of Darby.
I have always liked those kind of gothy punk characters. Like, even Sting, I was watching when Sting was, had just become Crow Sting. I loved the Crow.
Yep.
Loved that whole thing. I've always loved those kind of characters. The Fiend, Bray Wyatt, like,
that's why
Malachi Black.
I was getting ready to say Malachi Black. He's probably like my favorite character / wrestler.
Even Goldust, when he was like gender bending and stuff, I loved those weird Gangrel, the Brood. Those weird, kooky. Loved those characters. My thing with Darby Allin, and I talked to my friend about this. I went to my friend's house to watch the pay-per-view with her and her husband, and we were, his paint, especially when he gets it done, is so good, but it rubs off so fast that we were like, boy, get you some MAC Fix Plus, okay? You need a setting spray for that shit.
There you go.
So the guys listening probably won't have any idea, but if there's anybody listening that does makeup, any of the girls that might listen to this, y'all know what I'm talking about. Max Fix Plus. Urban Decay All-Nighter. Just spray it down.
Yeah, I'm sure that would get you to probably stick and all that, keep from rubbing off.
Yeah. It's just like, it's just everywhere. Do you remember in the 90s when Sting would wrestle and his would just like flake off?
Oh yeah.
I was like,
Or
what
same thing
kind
with
of,
Warrior.
yeah, just flake off. It's like, oh. By the end of the day, they looked so crazy.
Yeah.
But you know, I like that though. I like when people look tore up after a match. Like one thing with the Divas, and I'll give this not. Well, I don't know why I said the Divas. I meant the Divas division, but with the women, like back in the Divas time, it was like move your hair and still look pretty the whole match. One thing that I really loved about Charlotte Flair is when she came up to the roster, she would fight these girls and she'd look so haggard by the end of it. Her makeup would be all crazy. And Sasha Banks too, like that generation of women came up and they would look so haggard after matches. Like they would look like they had just ripped each other's faces off. And I lived for it. And I think other fans did too.
I was gonna say, shoot, look at Bailey's ponytail when she had the ponytail. Like it'd be all ragged and.
Yeah, that's just interesting. I like it at the end when they look blown up and sweating.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, you fought. You did that. You fought, man.
Yeah, I was gonna say the closest thing we have to that is Bryan Danielson when he would take chops and his chest would look like hamburger meat.
Oh yeah. Well, see, the guys have always been more about it. It was a thing with the women during the Divas kind of thing, like the 2000 to 2013 area.
Yeah.
Where they were expected to just look pretty and not break a sweat. And I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. They're wrestling.
Yeah, exactly.
Of course, these are the girls that Johnny Ace was hiring.
Yeah. And I was going to say, not to switch it off to women, but I was going to give an example of one of the matches that made me fall in love with Ring of Honor. And I would say that was Kobashi and Samoa Joe. That looked like a knockdown drag out brawl. I don't know if you've ever seen that match, Brandy, but if you get a chance, check it out. Kobashi literally chopped the shit out of Samoa Joe. And I don't know if you've ever seen a Kenta Kobashi match or anybody who has seen a Kenta Kobashi match and is familiar with it. He does the freaking machine gun chops. First time I saw that, I popped. Like, it was the coolest thing ever where he would, like, literally, like, chop him real fast right in the chest, like, and then yell in Japanese and then start chopping again. I was like, dude, this guy's awesome.
I don't think I've seen it. I'll have to look at it.
Oh, my God. Check it out when you get a minute. It is something to see. It's, whew, oh, it was dope.
Well, all right, $1 Million Matt. We're over an hour now.
Right.
We've said a lot. Is there anything you want to add before we sign off here?
Nothing much that I've said already, but for the most part, we can bounce out of here like a bad check.
Okay. What's the social media they can find us at?
You can find us at Wrestling Fluency on Instagram. That would be wrestling_fluency, and the same thing on Twitter.
Awesome. We haven't done much with it, but we will get there. By the time you guys are listening to this, we'll have a little presence going on there.
Yep, exactly. We
touched on it in the beginning. We touched on it a little bit in the beginning that it's been a journey to get to this part, but here we are.
Yep.
And hopefully here we will be in your YouTube notifications. Please think about subscribing and hitting the bell if you had a good time. We would love to have you. Would love to have you bring up whatever you want to bring up in the comment section.
Mm-hmm.
We ask that you keep it nice. I mean, there's a way to express your displeasure with something without being an asshole. And if you are an asshole, you'll probably get banned. Yeah.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah. And quite frankly, and
your comment will get deleted.
Yeah. I'm a person who's not really gonna have too much hurt with taking a comment down. So keep it respectful.
Yep, exactly. Hit the like button, dang it.
Yeah, hit the like button, hit the subscribe.
So we can get that algorithm going.
get the algorithm going, meet some new people. That's one of the things we were so excited about, was the opportunity to meet new wrestling fans and just connect with people.
Exactly.
So, all right. Well, I have been Brandy, the Alabama Slammer. You are
$1 Million Matt, the king of Pennsylvania strong style.
And this is Wrestling Fluency, guys. We will see you again next week. Bye.
All right, time to bounce like a bad check.
Booyah. Okay.